This is the episode with all the nugs, all the golden nuggets of insight and wisdom that I'm seeing so far, or maybe the chicken nugget insights, if that's what helps you. Some people are all about the chicken nuggies. And so this episode, I digress, but this episode will be 20 to 30 minutes of me elucidating the understanding that I'm seeing as of right now. It's always going to change. That's changed my life. It's helped me come from rock bottom, from the lowest place of my entire life, where I was almost admitted to a psychiatric hospital, to where I am now, which I'm still recovering, but I have so much more peace. I have so much more beauty and contentment and joy in my life. And that's not because I've created it and I've had only positive thoughts. It's because I've seen that we have that within us, that it's an innate part of who we are already, of who I am, and of who you are. That wellness is your birthright. We're going to explore that today. This is episode number 5 of the Rich Life Realization podcast. No guest today. It's going to be me. And let's dive in to the understanding, the understanding that will help you have more resiliency, less stress. Really, it's all encompassing because it's our own inner wellness. And if you're wanting improvement in your life, well, it's already there. You don't have to force improvement. That's where I am now. I see it. I see that we have an emotion that comes up from underneath, from our source or mind, that gives us beautiful feelings of consciousness, and it is always underneath, and sometimes it gets covered up, and that's what I'm seeing too. It was even there, that innate wellness was even there for me in those most challenging times. But I covered it up with my own personal thinking. I was struggling with stress and burnout. I was having some symptoms, physical symptoms of acid reflux, caused probably by stress and by my eating habits, that I was actually eating too well, and that's definitely a thing. It's called orthorexia, and it's an eating disorder that I still am working through. This understanding has helped me with it. I was also trying to get all of that stress managed through my habits. I was doing cold showers, and I was doing yoga, meditation, qigong, breath work, exercise all in one morning. It would take me a long time. My de-stressing was stressing me out. And I thought I had to do it. It was almost, I became almost addicted to it, where some people become addicted to alcohol or gambling. I became addicted to trying to de-stress and further my well-being and put myself in the right state. And I thought it was working. And when we're in burnout, I think we're like, okay, we're okay. And we're going along. And we don't realize just how much of a toll that stress is taking on our lives, on our relationships, on our work. I know I didn't realize it until my body literally was saying, okay, you need to slow down. It's time. And that was that, maybe in that innate wellness in action. Maybe because it was giving me the signal that what I wasn't doing, that I was doing was not going to work long term. And it'll tell you, our bodies and our innate wisdom will tell us. And we try to ignore it. And I know I ignored the advice of my wife, who was always the voice of reason. She will confirm that. And I got lower and lower. My thinking and my obsessive thinking got worse and worse and worse. And I hit rock bottom. I wasn't sleeping. I was so anxious that I was pacing at 3 a.m, back and forth. I remember going to the hospital and wanting some relief, some reprieve, because I was so anxious. It felt like a really bad ride. Just the energy of it. It was too much. And I'm betting that a lot of people have experienced that. And I went to the emergency room and they didn't do much. And they could see that there was nothing wrong with me. They did blood work. It was all coming from here. That's been a hard realization, to realize that I created that. And I think most of the time we do, our thinking creates our situations in life, because it's this reality making machine. It's like Michael Neal talks about, how it's kind of like the special effects department of a movie, that it will take whatever script that you give it and it will make it real. It gives it the weight of reality. And so it looks and feels absolutely real. I was listening to somebody speaking today, and they were talking about how you don't want to deny that it's raining in your head. They kind of use that metaphor, that it's raining in your head. You don't want to deny that it's raining. It really is reigning in your head. And I think we all, a lot of the time, want to force it out too, and force in good thoughts. And and I did that. I was trying to do that during that positive thinking. It was kind of like I was gaslighting myself. And you don't have to do that, because underneath we have that innate wellness, that intuitive knowing, wisdom, common sense. Deep down we have that, and we think that the rain is going to last forever, but it won't. Because that intuitive wellness will lift us back up. It's buoyant. And sometimes it just takes time. But we can stay pushed down, right? We can stay in those lower states because we kind of grab on to them or try and push them away. And when you do either of those things, they stay. It can make them last longer. And now when I get into those states, I know that it's because of my thinking. So that's one of the first nuggets. Nugget number one, chicken nugget number one. Your emotions are coming from your thinking. Your emotions real time are not a reflection of what's going on in the world or a response to what's going on around you. They are a direct response to your level of thinking in the moment. And so when you get into those lower states, it's okay to be there. It doesn't look as scary when you have this understanding, when you know where it's coming from. And you also know that the new thought will come along in time. It's not necessarily a waiting game, but it can be. You can just kind of be in that space where you're in a low mood, you're feeling angry, or you're feeling sad or depressed. That's a signal that your thinking is off. That's all it's telling you. Because your body is a thinking machine that's trying to keep itself safe. And it makes those thoughts real, like we talked about. And we can start to question the reality of those thoughts and look toward where thought comes from. When we do that space, that inner wellness will bring us thought, because that's where thought comes from. And it could come from old, recycled, stale thinking, kind of our old thought patterns. And we notice that there's a difference in feeling. And a lot of those old recycled thoughts, the habitual thoughts, the thoughts of, I'm not good enough. For me, it was my recurring thought was, I can't do this. And it would morph into it was an escape. It would morph into a suicidal thought. If I'm going to kill myself. But that was a recycled thought. It was an escape thought. All it was telling me is that I didn't like what I was feeling. I didn't like where I was right now. That's all it was telling me. And when you look to the space where thought comes from, instead of at the thoughts themselves, that's maybe the second chicken nugget in our 6-pack of chicken nugget, or however many pack we're going to have. When you can see and look towards where the thought is coming from, well, then new thought will come. It creates an opening. And the new thought might come from that intuitive wellness. And it might not. When you're feeling anxious, it's because you're having anxious thoughts. And they're happening faster and faster. Might be the speed of your thoughts. Michael Neal talks about thoughts per minute, TPM. So when you're having that anxiety like I was having some very anxious thoughts. And it was causing anxiety throughout my body. And repeating it, because it was recycled. It was fear. And now I look to the wellness within. I see that if I'm getting those thoughts or if I'm getting those feelings that okay, my thinking, I need to start to question it, because that means that I've shifted down in my level of understanding. I'm not seeing, even though it feels like I am seeing the reality, I'm not. That's that signal to me. I'm not feeling the reality of the situation. I'm feeling my thinking. And when you can do that, when you realize that, well, then it's not as scary. You can start to see through it. It doesn't look as solid. It's almost starts to have this ethereal quality, like a ghost. It's kind of like in like some of the scary movies, right? Where they're so afraid of the ghost, but it turns out to be like a friendly ghost or something like that. And then they realize that they can just pass right through it, that it will just pass right through them. You'll see sometimes they just walk right through the ghost. That's a lot of how this is like. We create these thoughts, and we can make them into crises. I did. We can make them into this mountainous. That's why they have that saying, like, molehills to mountains. That we can make them into this mountainous, this frightening, all-encompassing, scary thing. But really, it's just the creative power of thought. And we have this ability, unfortunately, to use that power against ourselves. There's another chicken nugget. We can use the power of thought against ourselves. And we do it all the time. People say they just have those thoughts pop up in their head. I will now, still. Yeah. Like, who do you think you are? Kind of that imposter syndrome or the doubt or this social fear, self-consciousness. Those thoughts, you can use those against yourself, and you can, it's not real, but the harm that you can cause yourself is so real. It's so painful. I was hurting myself and those around me, including my wife. I was isolated from my friends. I had thinking around that. I had the thinking that, well, they're only friends with me because of this when COVID happened. And it was not true. I found out that self-consciousness is in your way. It corrals us. It corrals our creativity and our true self-expression. It builds these walls. I did this post where I kind of talked about how your comfort zone is a prison that you create with your own insecure thinking, that people won't even try new things or new experiences. How much is that self-thinking limiting you? I talk a lot about creativity and art and expression because that's where that self-expression comes from. We're expressing who we truly are, our authentic selves, when we're being truly creative. It's an expression. And when you're not doing it, you're shutting a part of yourself down. And those self-conscious thoughts of like judgment of our own art, our own expression, they stop so much creative passion dead in its tracks. But it's just thinking. It's just made up in our heads. What if we could see that more? We would have so much self-expression. Our relationships would be so much more beautiful. Our friendships, there would be so much more uniqueness and cool crap in the world. That's how things are truly created. It's someone who says, what if this were possible? And then starts in on it. That's cool. And so when you're having those thoughts, when you're bumping up against your own walls that you've built, that's kind of a hard nugget to hear, that, oh, I've kind of made my own prison. I've made my own walls. It's hard to see, and it's hard to look back and see all of the pain that was caused because you didn't understand, because of the thinking that you had at the time that felt real to you. It's hard to look back at that once you start to have these realizations that start to free you and start to see that, oh, I have my own key. Because that's the cool thing too. Since you built your own walls, even though they look and feel solid to you, guess what? They can disappear in an instant because you made them from thought. They can go. You can walk right out. Isn't that so freaking cool? Yeah, it is. And when you bump into the walls, when you get into those feelings, the low states, the fear, the anxiety, the doubt, the indecision, that's the signal to you that your thinking is not clear, that it might be time to slow down a little bit. It's your signal to not trust and to not necessarily go with your first reaction. Because we do, and then we regret it later, right? I think almost everyone's had that experience. What was I thinking? And at the time, it looked real, right? It looked real. So be there. Let that emotion be there. Know that it's coming from your thinking. It can be allowed. It's the signal that your thinking isn't. It isn't what it needs to be. Or it's just an old stale thought pattern. If it feels bad, if it feels overwhelming, if it feels confusing, overcomplicated, that's your signal you're not in tune with that inner wisdom that's always there with you. It's always underneath the surface. I like to talk about, it's a pretty standard metaphor in 3 Principles, about how the sun is our intuitive knowing, our wisdom, our intelligence, our inner guide. And then it gets covered up by the clouds, our thinking. And heck, those clouds can be pretty black. There might be lightning. But we know that the sun is still there. We trust that it is. We don't even have to trust. We know that it is because it's still light out. That mind and the consciousness and the thought are working. And that means we're here. The sun's there. There's the nugget right there. Chicken nugget. Well, I want you to start to look towards this. If you are like, I don't know, Rich, that's okay. Yeah, I don't mind. I don't mind. I see it. Usually. Sometimes I lose it, and then I get lost and get into a bad place, and then I remember all this stuff. But start to look in this direction. Start to look within. And that's what I was doing. I wasn't looking within when I was looking to the internet, to any other place that I could find for answers. I was typing in my search bar about tons of medical things. I was calling Google Doctor. Dr. Google, give me a prescription. And oh, it did. It gave me lots of prescriptions. And then I wasn't seeing my own intuitive intelligence. I was looking outside, and it hurt me. It caused real hurt. Not to say that there are medical professionals who can really help you. I was helped by a lot of them. There was one who especially helped me. And we have our own intuitive guidance too. So I'm pointing to that with my clients. I point to it. Hey, you have it. It's right there. It's behind you. It's within you. It's all around you. Yeah. Start to look in that direction. And I think you'll be amazed with what you find. And if you want someone there to help point it out, help you see it, that someone that sees it in you already, give me a call or an email. My email is richliferealization@gmail.com. And you can find me on Instagram at richliferealization and on Facebook. And you can call me at 970-716-0075. So I'll do that again because 970-716-0075. You can text me, you can call me. If you'd like somebody to be there with you as you're looking for this, if you're in that space of like anxiety and fear, if you were like me, so burnt out and stressed out that the de-stressing tools were causing you to be even more stressed, I can help. And thank you for listening today.